Alrighty, welcome everybody to Moneyline MMA coverage of UFC 320. We're obviously here a little bit of a different day in which we usually are here on Monday. We had to make a little bit of an audible so that Jose and I could both make it. Earlier in the week, we're a little busy with work events and other things going on. So we wanted to try and at least bring you both of our picks instead of just one of us kind of parading our both of our picks through one mouth. So that way we can both provide our picks and the reasonings for those picks on the show together. Um, so here we are, a little bit late, but we'll take better late than never is going to be our philosophy here for UFC 320. Coming off UFC Perth, it was an interesting card for sure. Jose and I had some interesting picks, but in the end, that it was kind of an underwhelming card, really. Like most of the fights that weren't the main event, kind of meh. But in the end, Jose and I had Dominic Reyes. That's a tough one. That's all I gotta say is that's a tough one. Carlos Alberg looks great, and now apparently there's some beef between Alberg and Izzy. I didn't know about, but I've been hearing rumblings that Izzy and Alberg have a little beef, so we could see a matchup between Alberg and Izzy coming up soon. I think that's pretty much the only takeaways from UFC Perth. It was otherwise kind of a mid at best card, but at least we get to follow that up with UFC 320. This is going to be taking place at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. We're bringing back a Vegas pay per view, so you could expect normal pay per view times with preliminaries starting at 5 p.m. Central Time. Of course, the main card at 9 p.m. Central Time, and this card is headlined by a light heavyweight belt between Magomed and Alex Pereira, the rematch that we saw earlier this year. So without further ado, I'll quickly recap how we do our picks here, and we'll get into things. Essentially, Jose and I make 5 picks for the UFC 320 card, and we rate those picks in order of confidence from 5 to 1, with 5 being the most confident and 1 being the least confident. We make these picks separately of each other and then just confer right before we hit go live so that we know what order we're going to go in, because we always go with the locks of the week first. So all the picks you're seeing here are independently made, and we just know what order to go in from there otherwise. So without further ado, we'll get into it pretty quick here today just for the sake of time management. And that said, my 5 weight for this upcoming Saturday night pay-per-view card, I'm going to be looking at the feature fight on the main card. I believe all of our picks today come from the main card. And this is one of my favorite fighters in the promotion right now. Anybody who's watched knows my favorite is Kamzat, and it's been that way for years, ever since COVID, really. But now Kamzat's the champ. And one of my other favorite fighters that I'll always be riding on is Jiri Prochazka. He's the feature fight against Khalil Rountree. And it's sad because Khalil Rountree's a guy I'm a huge fan of too. I like hardcore music, I like metal, and Khalil Rountree kind of came from that side of things. He used to sing in a band that was pretty cool. So I'm a huge fan of his just based on that regard. He seems like a kind of guy I could get along with, seems like a kind of guy I could be cool friends with. Interestingly enough, both of these guys are coming off against wins over Jamal Hill, and they're fighting each other now. And I honestly think that this could really be kind of the decider. Now that we're getting that rematch between Pereira and Magomed, I doubt we're going to see a third fight between those two in the immediate future. So to me, the winner of that fight is likely going to be having to defend their belt against either Khalil Rountree or Jiri, whoever wins in the fight upcoming. So we'll have to see. Time will tell. And certainly it needs to be a little bit of an entertaining fight, but this could be a title challenger kind of situation coming for the light heavyweight division. And my 5 weight will be coming on Jiri Prochazka. As much as I like Khalil Rountree, and I think Khalil Rountree really does bring a lot to the table. He kind of seemed like one of the guys that didn't deserve his title shot back against Alex Pereira last year, and he ended up going almost five rounds with Pereira, and definitely outperformed his expectation, but still lost his fight. And he came back earlier this year in June and beat Jamal Hill via decision, and it was pretty clear that he was the better man in the cage that day. And similar story for Prochaska, where he lost to Pereira and then beat Jamal Hill after that, and now he's here fighting Khalil Rountree. So it's kind of interesting how these guys' paths have led to like losing to Pereira, beating Hill, and now they're fighting each other. But in the end, I really like Jiri's his style. He's kind of a madman, for the lack of a better term, and I think especially after that loss to Alex Pereira, he said it himself that he kind of needed to change a little bit. He can't just continue to be the same Jiri and expect different results. And I really respect that out of guys. I think sometimes in the UFC, you almost see too much of that, where guys just they get in the zone of what they think they're good at, and they don't improve much. They just kind of sit in that pocket. And I don't blame them. I mean, it is what got them to the UFC and got them as far as they've gotten. But there still needs to be some level of evolution, I think, no matter what. So Honestly, really, without having to go any further on that, I'm taking Jerry. I'm taking Jerry with my 5 weight. I think it's going to be his wild nature. I think it's going to be somewhat of the manner of the fact that he's got spinning elbows in his arsenal. And honestly, I don't know if you followed up with any of the promotional videos he's kind of been posting out there on his Instagrams and whatnot, but he's talking about taking Khalil Roundtree down. He's talking about being able to wrestle him if he needs. He's talking about submitting him if that becomes a part of the fight. And it's just interesting. So I think I'm higher on Jiri not only because I'm a fan of his, but I think he's evolving his game. He's not staying stagnant and saying, well, striking is what I'm good at, so I'm just going to continue to strike. He's trying to sharpen his toolbox, for the lack of a better term. Um, so I'm pretty confident here. Jerry gets the job done against Khalil Roundtree. He is 2-1 favorite in terms of the odds, minus 205. Khalil Roundtree at plus 158 dogs. So I'm taking the favorite here, but far from the heaviest favorite on this main card. And definitely curious to see what you think, Jose.
Yeah, Nick. So for this one, I myself have Yuri as well. He is my 3 weight, and the reason why he's my 3 weight, and I'm not as confident, is just because, I mean, Khalil Roundtree, he's just a dog. He's really tough, and I know him and Yuri are gonna go blow for blow on this one. It's gonna be probably like a similar fight to how it was with Dominic Reyes, where Dominic Reyes when he fought Yuri, this was when Yuri first entered the UFC. Dominic Reyes in the first round looked pretty decent. It wasn't until the second round when he started to get pieced up, but I think the first round is going to be pretty similar. Both guys are going to be taking heavy shots to each other, and I think we've already seen Yuri. We already seen him obviously get finished by Alex Pereira twice, and Khalil Roundtree himself, like dude, is just a kickboxing Muay Thai phenom, and he's got phenomenal striking just in general. And Yuri's striking is a little more unorthodox and unconventional. And as you've seen it with Alex Pereira, when he can land some good shots, but when you go against someone super high level of stand up game like that, they don't really fall into that game as much. And so I think that's going to be something he's probably going to struggle with Khalil Roundtree, and he's definitely going to take hard shots. Like I said, like Dominic Reyes, he's got phenomenal boxing, but doesn't have the chin, and he went blow for blow with Yuri. I think Khalil's going to go blow for blow with Khalil Roundtree, but at the end, I think Yuri is going to just ride it out and get the win, but it's not going to be an easy win. I think, maybe this fight for me should have been a little lower on my confidence scale, maybe even a 2 or 1, but obviously a 2 or 1. But that being said, at the end, Yuri's just time and time again proven he can get the job done. And he's just, I think, being more elite level and has already competed with more elite level fighters than Khalil Roundtree. So that being said, I'm going to ride out with Yuri, but I'm not going to be as confident in it just because just the legit threat Khalil Roundtree is. So this one, I got Yuri Prochaska as well, but he is my 3 weight.
Okay. Okay, I got you. Yeah, man, that makes sense. And I do agree on giving respect to Khalil Roundtree here. He's a dog, and he's not a guy that's easy to put out. So by no means am I sitting here saying Jerry's going to finish Khalil Roundtree. And I could definitely see some paths where Roundtree makes this tough on Jerry. And by no means am I 100% of my 5 weights. So it's a 1v1 fight. You never know with guys that are this tough and this experienced in their game. So this is me being pretty confident in Jerry, but also understanding there's going to be some inherent risk with all these guys. And Khalil Roundtree is one guy that you never want to look the other way from. He's not a guy. If you overlook Khalil Roundtree, you're losing the fight. Absolutely. So yeah, that said, let's go to Jose's 5 weight.
So yes, so for my 5 weight, this one's going to be the first title match of the night, and it's going to be the fight between Marab and Corey Sandhagen. And for this one, I'm going to straight off right off the bat, I'm going to go strong on Marab. The reason is that we already seen him hang out with elite level strikers and elite level wrestlers, and he's just proven that he's a well-rounded fighter and he's got a lot in the gas tank, and he can just keep going all day. We've seen him. And the thing that Corey Sandhagen offers to the table is he's just a crazy, wild, phenomenal striker, and he does have good wrestling himself, really good jiu-jitsu. But the thing is, like we saw, when he fought Umar Nurmagomedov, he said that he spent a lot of time working purely on his wrestling, had a big wrestling camp for it, and at the end, ultimately, Umar was still able to impose his will on him. While as in when Umar then fought Marab was able to kind of neutralize and the wrestling and eventually get the win. And so I think this is going to be no different. I think this might be a similar fight than what it was with Umar and Corey Sandhagen, except Merab's got, I think, better striking than Umar Nurmagomedov. So the only way Corey Sandhagen could obviously get a win is I have no clue. I was going to say he has to really catch him off guard and do like a flying knee like he did with Frankie Edgar or something. But overall, I just think Merab is just the better fighter, is well-rounded, and he can keep up with the best wrestlers in the division and the best strikers. So that being said, I'm riding high on Merab. He is my 5-weight. Nick, what are your thoughts on this?
Man, so I do agree, man. Merab's a complete dog. This is probably going to end up being the lock of the week, considering he is my 4-weight. Dude, I mean, this is tough for me because I hate to make it sound like I'm knocking Corey Sandhagen, who's also an absolute dog and more than deserving of this title shot, man. This is Corey Sandhagen's has grinded his way here, and he's only lost to some complete dogs on his way. But at the same time, I just don't think Corey Sandhagen has eclipsed the level of what Merab has been able to bring. And, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, Merab's going to find his match. Merab will lose, right? It seems like in MMA it becomes this thing with some fighters where it's like they become this god almost, for the lack of a better term, where it's like they're so good they're never going to lose. Like Alex Pereira almost. He's so good he's never going to lose. And then Magomed comes in and he's like, excuse me, I have something to say about that. So, yes, Merab is just not going to, he's not going to go undefeated. He's not going to hold the belt, blah, blah, blah. But Merab is still, like, he's 34. He's not old. Like, I see Merab having a little bit tougher of a time, maybe when he's 36, 37, kind of getting his upper 30s. But right now, Merab is well within his prime. Merab is going to completely walk through Corey Sandhagen, I think. And again, this is no disrespect to Corey Sandhagen. I just think Merab is currently that tier above right now. And the market would agree. Merab is a minus 440 favorite. Huge. Second highest favorite on the main card. Corey Sandhagen plus 310. The market speaks volumes on that, man. I mean, sure, if you want to take sort of a risk and you want to try and shoot for the stars, you can make a little bet on Corey Sandhagen plus 300. That's fair odds. But man, I just don't think you're going to end up. I think you're going to end up regretting that. Is what I'm trying to get at. At the end of the night, Merab is just who Merab is, man. He's going to continue to push forward. That wrestling pace is nuts, and I just don't think that stylistic matchup is what Corey Sandhagen needs. Not that I don't think Corey Sandhagen could ever be a champion, but the matchup there just doesn't fit him well. His takedown defense is only sitting at 63%. Merab could clean that up. Merab could take him down every round, and I just think, you know, to be honest, I do lean decision. I don't think Merab finishes him, but it could happen. I would lean decision in this fight, but I think Merab just kind of walks all over him with his cardio. And the one thing you could say with Corey Sandhagen is he's got quite a size advantage. He's got 5 inches height. He's got 2 inches reach. And the cage should be a large cage instead of the smaller fight night cages you see at the Apex and whatnot. So that'll help Corey Sandhagen a little, no doubt, but nowhere near enough in my opinion. So yeah, we'll agree on that one. That'll be a combined 9 confidence points, I believe.
Yep, that's one. Yep, we both agree on that's probably our lock of the week. And that being said, do you want to move on to my 4-weight or your 3-weight?
You can go ahead and give your 4-weight. Might as well go for the highest first.
So for this one, this is now the next title fight, the main event of the night, and this is the title fight between Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira. This is their rematch, and this one, you know, I don't think we're going to see much different than what we saw the first time, to be honest. I think Magomed is going to come in and dominate again. Even then, like, I think Alex Pereira, like, he's got phenomenal striking and a lot of power for sure. And we've seen him come back from losses as well. Like, well, no, actually, we've seen him just get consecutive wins against the same opponents before, like Izzy and Yuri. But we've never seen him actually overcome a loss like this from Magomed. Because when he lost to Izzy, he just moved up then. And in this one, he's coming back for that rematch. And I think Alex Pereira, like, I don't know what else he could be doing to get much better, to be a better opponent for Magomed, other than just continue working on his wrestling. But we know that Magomed's got just phenomenal ground and pound game, phenomenal wrestling, and also his striking, like as he showed in the first fight, is up there to keep up with Alex Pereira. He's not, and he's got, you know, maybe he may even have some of the power too to just knock out Alex Pereira as well. You know, haven't seen, and he's just a younger fighter too, just big and athletic. it's hard to not side with him. I like Alex Pereira a lot. I do think, like if Alex Pereira had just like wrestling to keep up with Magomed's wrestling, then I think this fight would be lower. I would rank it more like in the 2 and the 1 space. But that being said, like Magomed is just, I think he's almost like a bigger version of Marab. So that being said, the only way to catch him is, I think, would be like if you're going to be on the ground and get mauled by him, is that you have to have superior jiu-jitsu, kind of like how Paul Craig did. But even then, Paul Craig barely won that. Like he just slipped that win in really last minute. And Alex Pereira, his jiu-jitsu is just not nowhere near as Paul Craig's caliber as well. So I think it's just going to be almost a similar type of fight that we saw the first time. It's just going to be a ground and pound and control time up until unanimous decision. So that being said, I got Magomed Ankalaev, and I'm not sure what the odds are on this one, but I'm assuming he's probably the favorite again. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this one, Nick?
Yeah, you're right. Magomed is the favorite. Minus 265, actually. Alex Pereira plus 200. So it kind of goes back to, when I said it earlier, I knew in my head, like, Pereira fallen from the stars, man. He used to be the guy that was undefeated, basically. He was a god. He was never going to lose. Of course, he lost to Izzy, but otherwise undefeated at light heavyweight. And he was just like the next coming of Christ in the UFC, and he never will lose. And all of a sudden, he kind of he hits a brick wall with Magomed. And so either way, safe to say, I don't want to ramble on about it. I am taking Pereira. We're going to disagree on this one. Pereira's my two weight here, and I like Pereira because you make a comment, right? I get that Ankalaev has that idealistic threat of wrestling, being from Dagestan or whatever. But let's be real. I mean, statistically, Ankalaev has not landed a takedown in any UFC fight or any fight in general since 2023 against Johnny Walker. Magomed Ankalaev does not utilize his wrestling as a strength. And that's just a fact. He landed zero against Alex Pereira, zero against Rakic, zero. I mean, this guy, like I said, has been almost 2.5 now years since he's landed a takedown. And I don't think he's going to, like, there's an idea. Maybe he's thinking, okay, Alex Pereira's going to change up his game plan. It's the second fight that they've had now this year alone. And maybe he's going to try and change that up and all of a sudden start for takedowns. But I still feel like Pereira's crazy to not be ready for that. And clearly he was ready enough for it in the first fight to not get taken down. He just still didn't end up getting the win with the other, excuse me, with the rounds on the feet. And he still got outstruck by Ankalaev. So to me, I'm still taking Pereira because I like his power. I think no matter what, he stands a chance to get a KO in any round, in any strike. And if this fight kind of plays out similarly to the last one where it goes 25 minutes, I think Pereira's going to have a little more urgency to swing a little harder and not let himself fall into that rut of, he's getting up there in age, right? So if he loses this fight, I'm not saying he retires, but it's like he's now in the boat where he has to win a couple fights to get back to the title chance. And I don't know, man. Alex Pereira can't let that happen. I think he's got some urgency here for sure. And just on the basis that Ankalaev has not utilized his wrestling recently, I'm pretty confident to say he will not utilize it again here against Alex Pereira. And I'd like to see Pereira get a knockout win or a couple of knockdowns at the very least en route to a decision win.
No, yeah, that's very fair. I would love to, I would love to see Alex avenge this loss. That'd be amazing. And then, because he's only getting up there, and I honestly don't think he'll be in the UFC too long. I don't know what his contract's looking like, but this would be a really good one, like especially to avenge that loss and get a W on his record. But as an odd, yeah, this is one we both will disagree on. You feel confident with Alex Pereira, him being your number two, and I just think it's gonna be almost a repeat of the first fight, no matter what. Like I just don't know. Yeah, I think this rematch is almost a little too soon as well. Where I don't know how much better Alex Pereira really could have gotten during that for a period of time. So that being said, yeah, this one I got Margamet Ankalaev as my four weight.
Yeah, dude, I don't even think Alex Pereira got any better. And in all honesty, I don't think either of these guys got better. I don't think it's about who got better. I think it's about the mindset going into it. I think it's about Pereira not feeling like he's on a 5-fight win streak and he can beat anybody. I think Pereira feels for once that he's back on the ropes again. And I think for those reasons, he's going to come in with a different mindset and a different game plan. I don't at all think he got better in that time. I mean, he's too old to really be improving like some young guy, like Raul Rosas or, even some other younger fighters. Alex Pereira is what he is. But you're exactly right, too, that I suspect Alex Pereira only has a couple fights left. Who knows what his contract looks like? I sure don't. But he strikes me as the kind of guy who's going to go and box a few fights after the UFC to really cash in on a paycheck. So would not be surprised at all if he finishes out his contract with the UFC and starts hitting up PFL and whoever else and says, hey, who do you want me to box because I want that big paycheck for sure.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. 100%. I can definitely see him doing some boxing matches after.
Yeah, so that's it. That covers both main event cards. And in fact, that covers the top 3 fights of this card. But we still have 2 picks to go for you guys. Let's jump to my 3-weight. We're staying on the main event for all of these picks. And my 3-weight's going to be on Youssef Zalal to beat Josh Emmett in, of course, the featherweight. The featherweight division. I really think this is. I feel like most people are going to agree with this. It's kind of just one of those things that to me comes down to a stylistic difference. We all know that what Josh Emmett brings to the table. He's got a lot of power. You almost could call him like a. I'm curious to see what you think, Jose, but it's almost to me like a kind of like Drew Dober. Like I don't know, Josh Emmett strikes me a little bit like Drew Dober in the sense that it's like he's got all this power and he can land those KOs. If he doesn't land that KO, I don't know, Josh Emmett, he doesn't seem to get those wins a lot, but at the same time, you can't. He's fighting Yair Rodriguez. He's fighting Ilya. Lerone Murphy is who he most recently lost to, and Lerone Murphy's a dog too. So it's not that he's losing to bad fighters, but I do feel like there's some element of Josh Emmett's not in there to get a decision win. Josh Emmett's in there to get himself a KO, or he's going to go out trying, basically. Youssef Zalal is far from that. Youssef Zalal coming off, he's actually on a 4-fight win streak, couple submissions in there, most recently one by decision, and he's going to push the pace. He's going to go for takedowns, and that's really where I think the difference comes here in this fight, is the fact that Youssef Zalal is landing just over 2 takedowns per 15 minutes in his fights, and he's got over a he's landing over 3 strikes per minute and absorbing less than 2. So his striking differential is way more positive. In fact, Josh Emmett's striking differential is negative. Josh Emmett is absorbing more strikes than he's giving, and that just kind of plays into why I compare him to Drew Dober. I feel like he takes some damage, but in the end, his hopes is that he's going to do you more damage with heavier strikes. And Youssef Zalal isn't going to stand for that. He's going to go for takedowns. He's going to push that pace, and he'll win this fight by decision, in my opinion, with some wrestling involved. I doubt he gets a submission. He might, but I think Josh Emmett's too smart and too experienced to let that happen. I think he gets taken down and can't get up, though, and Zalal wins this by decision. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, so for this one, I agree with you. I think Youssef Zalal is going to take the win on this. Josh Emmett, he like you mentioned, he's got the power, but he is getting up there in age, and his chin, like he has been knocked out before. I think Youssef, if anything, I agree with you, he's either going to win by decision or I think by submission as well. We've seen Emmett Josh Emmett get submitted by Yair Rodriguez before, and he's probably been submitted before more too. I don't have his record right now in front of me, but I think Youssef, the way he fights the style, can be comparable to Yair Rodriguez, and he can use his range, and if he can get a hold of, if he can do enough damage to Josh Emmett, he can, I think, definitely get a rear naked choke on him, or if not, ultimately just win by decision. I think Youssef, he hasn't fought the same caliber of fighters as Josh Emmett, but Josh Emmett is also, he's been at the top for so long. He's fought nothing but killers, and Youssef Zalal has proven that he can hang with hard hitters. He got knocked out by Jeremy Stevens a long. They both have been finished by Jeremy Stevens, but that's happened to both of them a long time ago. And since then, Youssef Zalal has come back and proven that he can hang with hard hitting hitters like Calvin Kattar, who he has a win over most recently. So that being said, I think Youssef is still like in a process of up and coming in his career. He's still, it's a second stunt with the UFC, and we've seen him go toe to toe with Ilya Taporia in the past as well, and look pretty good for the most part. And so he's dealt with hard hitters, and he's seen some good level of competition, not nearly as Josh Emmett, but he's, I think, just still like getting in his stride. He's younger, and he's still just only improving and getting better. And I think Josh Emmett is a perfect opponent for him to kind of boost his resume and keep pushing him forward to be in the top 5. So that being said, I agree with you on Youssef Zalal, but he is my one way just because Josh Emmett, the one thing, again, he's got the experience, he's got the better resume, and he's got the heavy hands. So if that's just the scariest part. Like, he can just make it lights out for you at any given moment. So that being said, I got Yusuf Zalal, but he is my one weight.
That is a good point. Interestingly enough, we both have lower weights. My 3-year one weight, but Zalal is the heaviest favorite on this card at minus 520, at least the main card specifically. Zalal at minus 520, man, 5-1 odds to beat Josh Emmett. Some part of me almost feels a little disrespected for Josh Emmett with those odds, but Zalal, to be fair, has kind of earned that in his 4-fight win streak. And I mean, 3 of those were finishes. Against Calvin Kattar, it was a very straightforward, unanimous decision that was easy for the judges. It wasn't close. So Zalal definitely has earned his stars and stripes. But Josh Emmett's a guy with a lot more experience, specifically in the fact that he's had a title shot. He's had more 5-round fights in his career. So this could be something for Zalal. But in the end, this isn't a 5-round fight. So that experience is kind of null. And in the end, I think Zalal gets the job done. But yeah, Jose can take it away with the last pick of tonight's card, or tonight's show for the card.
Yeah, so yeah, after that agreement we both have on Yusuf Zalal, now down to my final pick, my 2-weight. This is the middleweight bout between uh, Joe Pyfer and Abus Magomedov. And for this one, I'm going to go with Joe Pyfer. And biggest reason is just that we've seen him he got a win against hard hit a veteran like Kevin Gastelum, who even though he just missed weight most recently, he's proven that he can still hang with some of the younger guys and get a win. So that win over Kevin Gastelum would say aged well. And overall, Joe Pyfer is just a hard hitter. He does have submission skills as well, even though he doesn't have as many. And then Abus Magomedov, as we know, he's a phenomenal kickboxer. But the thing is, I think what Joe Pyfer will offer to beat Abus is just the forward pressure, the nonstop, relentless pressure that Joe Pyfer puts on, similar to like when Sean Strickland beat Abus Magomedov. It's Sean Strickland just, he's a crazy madman, eats up the punches. Abus landed a lot on him, but he just ate and kept pressing forward and throwing a high volume back. I think Joe Pyfer will do something similar, except instead of throwing a higher volume of punches like Sean Strickland, he's just going to throw heavy haymakers that can make it lights out. If he doesn't make it lights out for Abus, it's just, I think, going to be a unanimous decision win ultimately for Joe Pyfer. I just think he is the better fighter. And then when it comes to wrestling, I think both guys have solid grappling skills. And I just don't know if either guy's really going to engage too much in that. I can see this fight just overall being on the feet the entire time. And if it's on the feet the entire time, I just think Joe Pyfer is going to do more damage with his strikes versus Abus. So that being said, I'm going with Joe Pyfer on this one. He is low on my confidence scale as a 2-weight just because Abus, again, like I said, he's got phenomenal striking. I think he does offer better leg kicks than Joe Pyfer, but I think Joe Pyfer is just such a thick dude that he's going to be able to check him and absorb a good amount of the hits. But, over time, those can add up, and Abus could break Joe Pyfer down. So interested to see how that fight goes. But I am rolling with Joe Pyfer as my 2-weight. What are your thoughts on this one, Nick?
We'll have two disagreements and 3 agreements on this card, as I am picking Abus to beat Joe Pyfer. Of course, process of elimination states that is my 1-weight pick. I'm giving Abus a little bit of respect here. Abus actually being the dog here at plus 196 to Joe Pyfer's minus 260. And I will say this is a tough one for me. I'm a big fan of Joe Pyfer. He's only 3 days, believe it or not, older than I am. We almost share the same birthday. I like Joe Pyfer. He's a dog, body bags. He's an entertaining guy who comes in there and he looks for finishes. He's got a strong striking, right? What I'm trying to say is he's a strong dude with powerful striking. One of those things is like, I question, like, he comes off a win against Calvin Gastelum, and it's like, okay, I shouldn't hate on Calvin Gastelum, but it feels like Calvin Gastelum really isn't like he was at one point that huge prospect, and it's like, okay, but is he really that good? So I guess part of my knock against Joe Pyfer is that I do question, like, some of the opponents he's beaten. Like, I'd argue the best opponent he's ever beaten is Marc-Andre Barriault. And I don't really think that's really that impressive. I think Abus would beat Marc-Andre Barriault too. So, I don't know, this to me is really close. And the thing that brought it over the edge for me to say, you know what, I'll do it with Abus and the underdog, is that Abus has been utilizing his wrestling a lot more, unlike Magomed. Abus in his last 2 fights has landed 5 takedowns against Bruno Pereira and Michel Pereira, and he got a submission in a unanimous decision win. And as a huge fan of Michel Pereira, I have to admit that he got dog walked by Abus in that fight. It really wasn't even close. And if Abus, in my opinion, if he continues to utilize that wrestling aspect of his game, that he could expose a hole in Joe Pyfer's game. Joe Pyfer's a big dude, so maybe it's hard to keep him down on the ground, but he's only got a 60% takedown defense. And in my opinion, if Abus gets his hands on him, he's gonna get he's gonna get Pyfer down. Abus currently landing over 2.5 takedowns per 15-minute fights. And I think he utilizes that here against Joe Pyfer because he will recognize that Pyfer has power. Pyfer has the ability to finish guys, as shown by the fact that he finished Marc-Andre Barriault but couldn't finish Gastelum. So we'll see. But it's the reason I have it as my one way because I recognize that it's close. I'm not extremely confident, but to me, this is one of the best dogs to take, at least on the main card, because Abus is going to fight for that plus money. And I think that's a really fair line for a guy that's been pretty solid lately. You know, he's only lost to Strickland and Kaio in the UFC ever since being signed from I forget what was the promotion that Abus came from. Was it PFL? I think it was PFL. But either way, he came over from PFL, and it was one of those things like, is he going to be good or not? And they threw him straight to the dogs against Stoltzfus, I guess, kind of against the dogs. But then Strickland right after that, before Strickland was ever the champ. And that's a tough one to be kind of introduced to in the UFC. But either way, I like Abus here. I like the fact that he's got a multi-dimensional game plan here, in my opinion, where if he doesn't like the aspect of striking, he can go to the ground and win basically by decision in that way. So I do anticipate him to put up a good fight against Pyfer, even if he doesn't get the job done. So yeah, that's it. That actually completes it. That was one of the quicker shows for us. We're both obviously busy this week, so trying to get this show out for you guys, but also consider our own schedules. So thanks everybody for listening, watching, tuning in, even on a time we're not normally here. And we'll of course continue to bring you guys all of the picks and fights as we have coming from the UFC. I don't think we have a break for quite some time. At least throughout all of October, we're going to have a fight card. So following up UFC 320, we have UFC Rio, headlined by Mateusz Gamrot and Charles Oliveira. I think that's a really interesting fight for the lightweight division. And that's co-headlined by Davison Figueiredo versus Montel Jackson. One of my favorite, Montel Jackson's from out of Milwaukee, Brown Deer, Wisconsin. I know somebody who went to high school with Montel Jackson. That's so cool to see him being the co-main event of a UFC fight night. That's so cool. Happy for him. Can't wait to discuss that fight card. We should be able to get that to you guys next week, but stay tuned. As if we aren't able to get that out on Monday, we'll definitely be around sometime in the week. But as always, thank you for listening, and have a good week.